Hello and welcome to another episode of the Barnsley StartUp MeetUp podcast. With me, your host Matt Roberts, as usual. With me today is Mark Kenny of Vitreus Talent. Mark's going to be doing the talk for the event, the StartUp MeetUp event this evening, all around recruitment and how best to leverage what's already within your business, or if you are looking to recruit as a startup, how best to go about doing that. Mark's got many years. I won't you've got grey hair, so it's all right. But Mark's got multiple years of experience in the recruitment game, both in-house and agency recruitment for some of the world's biggest names, brands and businesses. So rather than me butcher your intro, Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Tell us a little bit about yourself and also why you started Vitreus Talent as well. What was the motivation?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me and inviting me to be on this podcast. I'm 20 years in recruitment. I started working for an IT recruitment business straight out of university. I did a HR degree. So I often joke that people who end up in recruitment say that they fell into it. Mine was a conscious choice. I just like the idea of what recruitment offered rather than the HR angle. I've been working in recruitment for 20 years. Like I say, IT recruitment in Leeds in 2004. So that's many years now, 20. But I spent most of my career actually working, as you've already said, in-house recruitment teams for some really large and well-known businesses. So right the way through from being a recruiter to my last few roles operating as a head of recruitment. Lots of different sectors. So I've worked for companies like Barclays, Royal Bank of Scotland, PwC. I've also worked for AstraZeneca, E.ON, Capita, Honeywell, ARM, who are the global semiconductor design and IP technology business, as well as working for some really large recruitment and staffing businesses. So there isn't a lot in terms of recruitment and staffing that I've not come across in those 20 years. In terms of why I looked to start Vitreus Talent, the truth is, I've been really fortunate to have that career, that corporate career in those big businesses. But I'd always planned to come back and do this. I always knew that I would come back and do this. I just joked at the start of this, I made a conscious choice to join recruitment back in the day, and really enjoyed it. So I'd always planned to do it, and I think like many, the pandemic makes you start to think about your life choices, what you plan to do. I'm in a fortunate position where I've got a young family, and basically I'd probably say a couple of years, but definitely 10 months of 2023, really thinking, right, is now the time to do it, and decided to do it. Awesome. So decided to leave the sanctity of a corporate paycheck and start on my own, which is what I did last year.
Yeah, fantastic! Congratulations as well. It is a big step, isn't it? And especially when you have responsibilities on your time, and it can definitely lead to sleepless nights and all of those sorts of things. What is your motivation then? So in terms of, you said that it was a conscious choice to get into recruitment. What is that motivation? Is it about helping people find work, or is it about interacting with people and helping to build successful teams? Or?
Yeah, and do you know what? Great question. I mean, when I first went into it, it was about helping people to find work. So if I go back to 2004 and I was deciding to do it, it was about helping people to get work. It was about working with loads of different companies, trying to find the talent they needed. So that was the bit that really appealed to me. I never actually saw it as a sales job. It is fundamentally. I never saw it that way, and actually was quite fortunate that in the years that I did it early on, just by the sheer kind of approach of relationships and doing a good job and delivering, that bit actually kind of came naturally. But it was very much about helping people find work, and it's not all roses. You have to deal with difficult messages and manage people's expectations as well. But that was the big thing, and really now that was the motivation for coming back to do it. Obviously, having had the career I've had, there's then the commercial element. You know, I've been in businesses where the things that I've done, overseen, supported my teams, you know, it's delivered growth for businesses. It's helped them to bring on board great talent that's then meant that they could be, you know, moving forward in terms of what they're doing. So, you know, now come back into it later in my career, it's still very much about the candidates and helping people find excellent careers.
Yeah.
But actually it is also as much about being valuable to the clients, you know, giving them advice, services that help them with what they're trying to achieve. And, you know, I think recruitment, I've always said, is that you're in a very fortunate position to do recruitment, whether you see it that way or not, because you have the ability to impact people's lives daily, but also to help businesses grow. And I think that's, you know, now why, you know, going into the second half of my career was why I chose to do it and step into, like you say, that scary decision.
That's good. Well, like, I mean, obviously this will be a subject for quite a lot of people looking to start a business, is especially when you have a family and people that rely on you for bringing money into the house. Let's be clear. What was that conversation like with your partner? Did you bring your kids? I mean, your kids are quite young, so I would imagine they probably weren't an active part of the conversation. But you know, what was that conversation like? Was it supportive? Was it like kind of, you know, were there adjustments that needed to be made? Yeah,
I mean, and you're right. Like my oldest is only 3.5, so as far as she's concerned, she doesn't really know what Daddy does. Just knows that he works in the office and he goes to meet people. In the house, I mean, look, I'm really lucky. My wife has been very supportive of the different choices that we've made, you know, for my career and also for hers. So you know, when we were talking about it, and you know, and it is a really scary topic, because ultimately what you're talking about is walking away from a steady income and a steady career and into the unknown. And you know, she was supportive from the off. So you know, really lucky in that respect. But we did have to sit down and really kind of make sure that we thrashed it out and said, right, okay, well, what are our choices? You know, what are the things that we're going to have to sacrifice, and you know, what's our time frame? And you know, that then becomes, you kind of have both your professional heads, because my wife has a, you know, professional job as well, that you have outside of work, and you have your home life where actually you are professional indirectly, but you don't have those sorts of conversations to then, right, okay, you know, in real terms, what does this mean? Because we had this coming into the household, we don't have that now, and like, what does that mean in terms of a timeline? But you know, really, really lucky. Wife's very pragmatic. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a scary topic for us both. But nothing but support, which I think makes it easier to have done that. We took a lot of time as well. I think that was the important thing. Like you know, like I say, all joking aside, we'd had a couple of years talking about it. We'd actually talked about it 10 plus years ago as an option. But then we came back to revisit it. It was a real kind of slow burn conversation in terms of, right, you know, let's just go through the steps and no rushing into anything. And we didn't. And then in the end, you know, we were comfortable with what we were doing.
Good.
And then when you throw another newborn into the mix a year later, like that was something we weren't expecting. You know, which we're very grateful for. But you know, it sharpens the focus a little bit.
It feels like that grand designs thing, doesn't it? Where you know, people start building a house, and then suddenly it's just like, oh, you're having a baby as well as all of this chaos and all of this stress and all of that sort of stuff.
And you're running well over budget.
I think you're absolutely right. You know, is that having that strong support, they're almost like another shareholder, right? Or they're another like kind of investor in the business, and they're almost some of the most critical ones, because you reflect that back on yourself, right? In the sense that I need to know that I am doing the best, or that I am planning as well as I possibly can do for these guys, because that's my life, right? You know, that's the future.
I mean, like I met with someone else that I've known for a long time who does exactly the same thing, but they're a bit more established in their journey. And you know, the thing that they said, which actually funny, if we'll talk about a little bit tonight, not as directly as this, but you know, they said it very neatly, which is, you know, bad decisions, or you know, ones that go wrong, or things that don't work out, that is my children's money, that's my children's investment, you know. And actually, like, no matter which way you look at it, it's about what motivates you. And you know, fundamentally, like, I love my career and love what I'm doing, but it is my family life that motivates me, you know, to do a good job.
It's legacy and stuff like that as well, isn't it, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Good stuff. So obviously worked in a large, as you mentioned, like in a wide variety of sectors, businesses. Are there any consistent kind of themes that run through that, like that you can draw from each of those sectors and go, do you know what, this is what makes a top-notch employee, or this is what makes an excellent engineer, or something along those lines?
There are. I mean, I think it's like you said, like there's a lot of different sectors and different types of business, but I think the thing that stands out for all of them is having enough rigor around their people strategy, and that doesn't mean that that everything has to be rigid and formulaic, but I think when businesses, and in particular, and this is applicable to all sizes, when they have an idea about the sort of talent they want to bring in, and also the sort of career they want to offer, and look, that might change, because businesses go through ups and downs and whatnot. But I think when you can have that element of structure up front, and also when in particular the decision makers, the hiring managers, I guess we're kind of looking to, the people who are going to bring those people on board, when they're committed to it and committed to offering a candidate-centric, approach to things, they're the ones that thrive, because actually recruitment is the brief is good, they know what they're looking for, and that can be early careers, apprenticeships, work experience hires, or execs. It can be any of those, all levels. You know what it is you're looking for. You've got a rough idea in terms of the framework of how you're going to bring them in, but you're absolutely committed to giving that candidate a really good, slick, professional experience. When you do all those things well, like more often than not, then the people come on board and they're successful because you've done all the checks and balances, and that's the same for commercial roles, entry-level roles, highly technical roles like engineers, software engineers. The ones that aren't serious, that's the common thread where actually, those people aren't bringing in the right talent. They're just filling the gaps because actually they're not committed to the recruitment process. They're not committed to you as a candidate, in terms of offering something and quid pro quo, making sure that it's all looking good. So I think that's the thing. And actually, like early in my career, when I worked at Barclaycard, one of the things that was we already had an idea about how we wanted to treat candidates and approach recruitment, but that candidate centricity or customer centricity, that's what makes businesses really tick in terms of hiring talent. If you say it, you're customer centric, but you can't be candidate centric, you're kidding yourself.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I guess you've got quite a unique perspective as well on how that recruitment journey has changed over the last 20 years, but I would imagine it's changed quite a lot more in the last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely for me.
Of course, But just in terms of how you engage with candidates and customers and things like that as well, right? Going from, I would imagine, traditional or more traditional methods of jobs boards and newspapers and all of that sort of stuff to then being almost entirely internet based. Is it almost entirely internet based? And let's say social media platforms, so like LinkedIn Jobs and all of those sorts of things. Do you still have to service the more traditional portals and job seeking environments, or is it a case of kind of leaving that to one side and focusing more on the more recent platforms?
It's talent acquisition at the moment, full stop. Whether that's in-house where I've come from, or the agency side or recruitment services side that I'm currently in, it's kind of at a bit of a crossroads, because you're absolutely right. In terms of the majority of the interactions, it always has been in my 20 years of doing it, or can be, predominantly phone, internet, now, Teams or FaceTime, whatever. It can be kind of virtual, right? In terms of how you get to a point. But then, there is always a need for human connection, and whether that is meeting your candidates, networking events, industry events, the physical kind of on-premise interviews, like it then kind of ebbs and flows, because actually some companies have got no issue with doing things completely remote and it works really well.
Yeah.
Even though they're going to hire people into a hybrid position. And we got the pandemic to a degree to kind of, thank and kind of curse for that. But I think for the candidates at the moment, across the board, it's a tricky world to navigate, because of the way that the TA world is kind of structured, the human element is there, but then it's not. And I think if you don't invest in actually making sure that everyone has consistent interactions, whether it's virtual or whether it's physical, is a tricky thing to then kind of do consistently. From a candidate perspective, a lot of the things remain the same that were there 20 years ago. Yeah. You can get roles through direct advertising, through all those things that you said. You can get roles through referral, through your network, through being in the right place at the right time at an event, through recruitment agencies, through search firms. It's just a real mix. So actually, what the fundamentals of the environment haven't changed, but how well it's executed has kind of ebbed and flowed a little bit. Yeah. And you hear that at the moment. You can, if you go onto LinkedIn most days, you can see the experience of software engineers over the last 3 years when when companies have been in mass tech scale up and they're hiring everyone and it's fantastic, and then they're all mass layoffs. Yeah. And the experience of those individuals is not great. No. And you're seeing it across the board. And I think that's where, going back to my point about what makes really great companies good at recruitment, well, actually, it's about making sure that you don't leave any candidates behind, that, the nurture is there.
Having those difficult conversations as much as having the good ones, because you never know in the future. It might be that even if it was a no this time, as long as it's delivered well, they might well still be a good candidate for a position for you further down the line.
Always, absolutely. From a startup perspective right now, that individual that you might see that wasn't quite right for what you're looking for right now, well, actually, if they have a good experience of you, and they may not have had the whatever it was that you needed right now, but if they've had a good experience of you, they are going to have a career locally. And if you've spoken to them in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, 5, whatever, but they're going to have a career and you want to re-engage. If they've had a bad experience, they're not going to come back. No. If they go and get the experience somewhere else, absolutely, they're going to have had a good experience of you. So there is, there's an absolute, longevity in these things. You've got to treat people with respect. Particularly my role now, because you do have lots of difficult conversations as well as the great ones.
Absolutely. So, just coming back onto Vitreus Talent. So, what was how come Barnsley? Why are you based in Barnsley? What you mentioned something around the name of your business as well.
Yeah. So I moved here from Leeds, 2013, so I've lived here for years now. Right. Yeah, so we're settled here. My wife and her family, Barnsley born and bred. Right. So I'm here. That's it. I'm here. I'm settled here. Love living here. When I decided to create the business, I didn't have a name. Yeah. I didn't have a name, and apart from calling it Mark Kenny Talent or whatever. I had to start thinking about that, and what was really important to me was to have some kind of meaning, and I wasn't quite sure what that meant in terms of like the linkage. But why Vitreus? I mean, I wanted to have a link to Yorkshire, to Barnsley. I intend to always be based here. As and when I grow, I'll be here in the town. It was trying to think about the links to local industry, and I've got a few different sectors that I operate in, but manufacturing is an area that's always had an interest to me in my career and academically. So I started to look at what industries we have here, and obviously we have mining, but glass is also obviously a big industry in Barnsley historically. So Vitreus is a play on one of the Latin words for glass, which like I say, wasn't. I didn't expect to be picking a Latin word to name the company, but it just felt right. Vitreus Talent then felt right. About helping people see the talent that is there. It's a play on the town.
Which is awesome, right? Aside from the fact that it ties into the local area as well, but the fact that it's a Roman word means it's got gravitas, right? It's got weight, it's got power behind it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Not many people ask. When they do, I quite like telling them it's to do with the town where I'm based. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So obviously you're going to be doing the talk for the Startup Meetup tonight, so thank you very much for doing that. And do you want to just take us through a little bit about what you're going to be talking about, how you're going to present, and what you're going to present?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously we're in the fortunate position in South Yorkshire where we've got so many technology-based startups, differing experiences, differing scales. So what I'm going to be going through is trying to give some advice that comes from my experience of startups in my early career, but also my experience of big businesses. So trying to help the people in the room and obviously the people that are part of Enterprise in Barnsley, Tech South Yorkshire, to just have some of the considerations from big business. The things that from my perspective, having been in those big businesses and big recruitment operations, are the things that actually small businesses can adopt. And I think the important thing is this is it's guidance. It's not I think if people want to kind of go with the flow, they can. But talking through some of the structure of setting up the recruitment process, the different things they can do if they've never recruited before or done an interview before. We're going to talk a little bit about employer value proposition, but also about personal branding and just how you can leverage marketing principles to your recruitment approach, and also how to keep costs low. How to do things for yourself without, quite frankly, without engaging people like me.
But it's not necessarily just about that, is it? There's a question to ask before you start to recruit necessarily, because a lot of people will think recruitment as a bum on a seat, right? A permanent bum on a seat, whereas it doesn't have to be that, right? There's all sorts of different approaches to team augmentation that can suit your current needs and your business's cash flow, kind of seasons and things like that, right? Yeah,
exactly. And that's exactly it. It's one of the big things, I think it's in the first few minutes of the presentation, is define what you think you need right now, and then also be aspirational or ambitious to define what you think in the long term. And that could be a permanent individual, and it could be a different set of skills, experienced early career or cross train. Equally, it could be something that is far more flexible and fluid, and sitting down and kind of really thinking about what you need before you hit the button is actually, I think it's the first thing that I say, because actually all the other things after that, if you've got that bit wrong, you're going to just end up going back and starting again. Yeah,
and like you say, it is a marketing job as well, right? You need to treat it almost like you're selling your product, you're selling yourself, you're selling your business, and it's not enough just to say, there's a job. Do you want a job? And the candidate has to sell themselves. You have to be engaging enough. You have to sell the vision, especially as a smaller business. You have to sell the vision of what you're trying to achieve to encourage that person to invest their time and their future, let's be clear, in you and your business. And I think a lot of people forget about that. And that's actually something that it can be a benefit for smaller businesses, right? Is that you can't compete necessarily, or a lot of the time you can't compete in terms of salary or in terms of total package and things like that, but you can compete on softer skills and softer benefits and things like flexibility and the fact that every day that you turn up to work in a smaller business, you're making a difference to the future of that business, as opposed to being like a cog in a wheel that you might do something today that then doesn't actually come to fruition or doesn't make a difference to that business for 12, 24 months. Yeah. Or even at all, or noticeably at all, right?
Yeah.
So, there's all of those sorts of positive things about recruitment for smaller businesses that make it exciting for me, make it interesting at least anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. It's, I said it wasn't a sales job earlier on, but actually, being a hiring manager is a sales job as well. Just because the candidates come to meet an individual doesn't mean they're going to accept the job.
No, absolutely, yeah.
And equally, you've got to be really clear on what you are and what you're not. There is no point in trying to compete with someone else, because ultimately you are only you.
Yeah.
And it's your business, it's your direction, it's your set of, services or products or whatever it is you're doing. So yeah, be really clear on what you are and what you're not, but also don't be afraid to sell your vision.
There was only one more question that I had. And I think you know what's coming, but hopefully, at least anyway, if you've watched any of the videos. Mark, what's your ultimate sandwich?
Oh, did you know what? I didn't know this was coming. Yeah, absolutely. I like a lot of sandwiches. I don't discriminate against sandwiches. But when I was thinking about this, the one that always sticks out to me, so apart from like a good old-fashioned chicken, mayonnaise, bacon kind of club sandwich, is like an upgrade of that.
Ah, okay.
So Pret, they do a chicken Caesar sandwich, which is like that, but with parmesan and all different things, and that is my ultimate sandwich.
Epic.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now I was going to make a tenuous link to a sandwich shop in Leeds from the olden days, but I don't think it's there anymore. So
really, what was the sandwich shop?
I can't remember what it's called. Oh no, I do remember what it's called. It's called Brod.
It is still there.
Is it?
Yeah. They were, because they had one in Headingley.
They did indeed.
But they and then they had one in the city centre, just around the back of the town hall.
They did, yeah. That's
yeah. That's still there. Yeah,
wow. Next time I'm going for meetings, I'm going there for lunch. So actually, in terms of that sandwich there, they used to do a really good, really hot chicken fajita sandwich.
Oh, nice.
Or a lamb and mint. But I'm still sticking with my Pret sandwich. That was my favourite.
Do they do it on multiple different types of bread, or is it just like one type of bread?
The Pret, it's like a really, it's like a flavoured sourdough baguette.
Ah, okay. Not one, like the problem I've got with sourdough, like when you're into the meat of the sourdough, it's good, isn't it? Like it's really tasty, it's hearty, and it's got like bite and it's got like flavour. The problem is the crust always like it makes my mouth bleed. Quite honestly, and it's like it feels like you're trying to eat a porcupine or something like that. Like what is going on there?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's one of my bugbears.
Wow.
Maybe it's just I'm getting old and my teeth don't work so quite so well. Good stuff. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, Mark.
That's okay,
it's been a pleasure having a chat with you. As usual and as always, I'll sign out with saying that the startup meetups are every second Thursday of the month. Next month, actually, it's not on the second Thursday of the month. It's on the 6th of March, which is the first Thursday of the month, which is actually because I'm merging with the Client 25 launch event that's going to be at the DMC one. I've got some voucher codes for free tickets to that as well, so have a look down in the links below and bag a free ticket, courtesy of Tech SY. Thank you very much, Tech SY, Tracy, Matt. And then that means that I'm going to be doing a lunch and learn style session at the back end of March. I haven't decided the date yet, but I'll put that in the links below once I've worked it out as well. Other than that, just left to say thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you for having me.